Well, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I guess I'm going to kind of take you through a different perspective, and I would assume that most of you here are kind of accredited hospitals. And I assumed also that you have similar challenges, right? And we kind of work with over 75 hospitals across in the country, and our background is we've been working in the area of improving performance, and not just in healthcare, but in other kind of businesses. And we've got a lot of thinking and best practices into healthcare. And I thought I can just share with you some of these key challenges which I think you possibly run through now. And rather than discuss all kinds of things, I just picked up the things that I thought are like the top of the challenges that organizations have. Now, one of the things that we're seeing is that to sustain, I think every hospital who's been through accreditation has put in phenomenal effort. And we see hospitals have taken years to actually put things in place. It's a difficult exercise, right? And I think it's a wonderful exercise. But we are recognizing that sustaining these improvements, I guess, is a much larger exercise. And I'm sure most of you are accredited understand. And we see that even before a surveillance visit, I've seen organizations who struggle, like they almost are doing this as if they're going to do accreditation for the first time. So, there's a lot of tension. We are running around, so which basically means that there's an effort. And the effort is seemingly larger because earlier people did not know, they got to know, and they got to do it, and now it's higher. Second is sustaining accountability, and how do you get people to participate continually? It's good to get people to participate in a fixed period in time. 1 year, 6 months, 3 months is fine. You can build, you can do all that. But how do you get them to continually participate? How do you bring accountability? I guess these are challenges. How do you kind of drive continuous improvement? When we say continuous improvement, we're talking about we continually improving. We look at, looking at where we are and improve. Now these are, I guess, are some 3 challenges. I'm sure there are a whole lot of other challenges. In 10 minutes, I guess I can just run through some 3 key challenges. Now, also the challenges related to those that I put forth are these. Well, most of these require manpower. Most of this require active participation of people. Most of this require proactive response management, right? You want people to kind of proactively work. Most of this require continual monitoring. You don't want to do this before an assessment. You don't want to do this before an audit. Most of this require collaborative action, right? So most of this require people from different departments to work effectively with each other. And in the existing environment that you live in, existing HMIs, existing systems, and existing things that are there. Now, these are challenges. And I thought I would like to share with you, how technology can be used to strengthen continuous quality improvement. And some of these address the challenges that I've put forth. And I've got 8 key areas, but obviously I'm going to detail on some of them. One is, how do you get people to comply with documentation? Right? We cannot, unfortunately, get onto an electronic documentation all the time. We do still use case sheets. Doctors use case sheets, nursing staff use case sheets, and everybody else use case sheets. Simple things such as, putting the sign in the right place, or putting the date, or putting the time, people don't do it. So how do you get people to comply with documentation? Now, this could be consent forms, this could be reassessment forms, this could be, all kinds of forms. How do we do that? So I'm going to focus on that. Second thing is, how do we look at creating an environment which is always in a state of preparedness? How do we make sure everything is working, nothing is broken down, everything is ready, for you to do things? Third, how do you get people to adhere to practices? Well, I'm sure the simple things like hand wash, right? And I'm sure you've done many programs about hand wash, and this is like we teach people how to wear helmets when they have to drive, right? Everybody knows they've got to wear a helmet, but we don't when we drive. Similarly, everybody knows they have to do a hand wash, but they don't really do a hand wash, right? So how do you get people to adhere to simple practices such as that? How do we get, the facility to be prepared? How do you make sure that every single light and infrastructure and air conditioning and biomedical equipment is working? So we believe in these 4 areas and 4 other areas, we can use technology effectively to improve and strengthen and deal with. The last 4 I would look at is, how do we act on patient feedback? We see I'm sure all of you do patient feedback, right? I'm sure all of you exactly know what patients feel like, right? But the thing is, you can possibly look at them once in a year, or once in 6 months, or once in a month, right? And you possibly put up, slides where it shows trends. So if I'm an employee, so what if there's a trend? Sure, you tell me what to do, but what am I supposed to be doing? How do I act on it? I'm sure all of you have committees which work, committees which meet every quarter, committees which meet every month, whether it's your drug and therapeutic committee, whether it's your infection control committee, and that's painful. People have to prepare presentations, people have to put up information, I guess in most situations we recognize that the key people who are supposed to be anchoring those committees are busy. So the committees may not necessarily meet, right, at the time. So how do we really act? How do we basically get that working? Now we're seeing another thing where NABH is, I think, doing a wonderful job continuously improving and, upgrading their standards. So now we have the 4th edition. So what does it mean to the hospital? What does it mean to the department? What do we have to do differently? Right, so how do we manage that? And how do we look at, lastly, standard operating procedure, which need to change if you're continually improving? They can't be standard the way we built, when we started. Right, so how do we deal with some of these? So I've just picked up 8 such key things, and I've thought for the benefit, I'll run you through some technology screens, some things so that you get a feel of how can we easily do this, right? So now, if you look at documenting, so the challenges are the following, right? So we all know that we have to audit, but we don't audit all open case sheets. Well, we possibly audit all case sheets when they come to MRD, right? Collating data is a big problem because, we do this on paper, Excel spreadsheets. How do we communicate to those who are contributing to these? How do you communicate to the clinicians who actually do not write legibly? Or how do you communicate to the clinicians who do not write the prescription in the manner in which you want them to write? How do you get to communicate this to anybody? And how do you analyze this? So these are challenges, on the documentation compliance. And if I just pick up one of that. Now we have tools which actually are on mobile phones. So people can use their normal mobile phone. So the photographs that you see are mobile phones such as this, a 5-inch mobile phone. And you can actually go and enter, you can pick up a case sheet, pick it up wherever you would. These case sheets are broken down to different sections. So I have assessment sections, I have consent sections, and I have, different forms within that. And I can actually go up, click on this, open up the thing, and then the checklist comes up and I see if some of these, each one of those are in place or not. Or I can devise question which says which one of these are not in place. And I can also say who's contributed to it. So now with a simple mobile phone, I can actually audit as many case sheets, which basically means I can actually go to the work spot, look at the case sheet, open case sheet, and audit it. Right? And it hardly takes me any time to do this. So mobility and technology would allow us to basically do more audits, free our time from doing other things. And then once a week, every time of the week, any time of the week, once a month, now I can actually, when you look at audit reviews, you can actually look at your MRD review where you know which department is compliant, which department is not, which sections are our compliance low, which questions are our compliance low, and hence you can act on. And so that's one aspect, one area that you can, one area where technology can really help. So sure, I think we've seen that in some hospitals it has improved compliance by over 50%, right, in less than 2 months. Right?
Just 2 more minutes, I think.
2 more minutes? Okay. So I'm going to just quickly run through then I thought 10 minutes. Okay, fine. So, okay, so let me quickly run through some of these things. 2 minutes, so I think I'll possibly run you through five screens. Turnaround time of things, so now you can have mobility where you can use and get people to, log complaints. I see Samir here, we work we do work with his hospital, and I think when we put this in place, complaints increase by more than double or a couple of hundred. But then we know for sure every single problem that exists in the hospital is known, and we fix it in a certain meaningful manner. You look at practice compliance, we actually have another case study where, a nurse goes to every single ward every day, looks at the checklist, looks at things which is not working and tells people something is not working. This process alone, we notice, has reduced, non-compliance by over 50% in terms of practice. Just doing this in 2 months' time, right? And that's not a big deal thing, right? Or feedback. So now you actually get feedback on your mobile every day. So you can actually get people who are in the department to act on it rather than you wait for the monthly thing happening. And this is happening on your mobile. Review committees, all committee structures are put up. You know which committee is meeting when. You have slides which automatically come up. You have the KPIs coming up. The systems pick up actuals from all your existing systems, so you know where you are. the charts come up automatically. So hence, you can actually go ahead and do your root cause analysis if there's something is not working well, right? And you document root cause analysis. You can you can document other things. You can look at these on your mobile phones. You can now look at seeing where exactly do you stand, even with the fourth edition, as you go along and as you move along in terms of your preparedness by each department or by each area. Lastly, and that's my last slide, we would look at your ability to actually empower people with knowing what they should know. You don't have to now give booklets. You don't have to give manuals to everybody. So if I'm an OT technician, I just need to know the SOPs that I need to know. And now people can get access only to the things that they need to know on the mobile phones, and they can also indicate if they actually read it and looked at it, which means your ability to communicate and empower people with information so that they can actually do their job properly while you're auditing them and monitoring them continually and reviewing performance, I guess significantly improves the ability to bring about a continuous quality improvement. Lastly, I guess you cannot mandate productivity. You must provide the tools to let people become the best. And these technology-driven tools would be those tools. So thank you very much.
Thank you. As I said in the beginning,